And good morning, One Life America. Jeff Bowles, your host, is here with you. Thank you all so much for being on the call this morning. I knew this would be a very popular call. Already we're seeing a lot of numbers show up, some new numbers, some folks we haven't seen on the call in a little while. Great to have you guys back. We're going to try to continue to improve these calls, hopefully going forward, and today is a great start in that effort with having the one, the only Brandon Lewis on the call with us this morning. So thank you again for being with us. Thank Brandon also for being with us. We're going to have him come on in just a minute. Got a few things that we want to touch base with you on, and as always, we try to start our conference calls and our meetings and so many of the things that we do here at One Life with prayer. So let's do that quickly. Bow with me where you are. Lord, we thank you so much for the opportunity this morning to get on a conference call, to be motivated, to even hear, from my understanding, about how to more powerfully combine what we do with our families and with our work, with our faith. And so, God, we're very we're privileged. We know we're privileged to be able to have an environment like this where we can share about our faith, we can be encouraged in our faith, and so we're thankful for that. Thank you for this organization of One Life America. Thank you for Brandon. Thank you for every single person that's on the call this morning. Be with each and every one of us throughout the call and throughout the week. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, got a couple of things that we want to do quickly. We want to remind you that we do have an academy coming up. You need to do your due diligence and sign up with us. We do have some folks starting to sign up, but the numbers are not quite to where we would hope they would be at this point, but that's okay. We know you're going to go ahead and register with us today. So if you're planning on being with us, we certainly need you to go ahead and begin to register. We're going to be in Orlando just about a month from now. You can go to onelifeamerica.com/academy, find all the details about the event simply by hovering over the About tab and choosing a category. So we're headed to Orlando here in about a month. We hope you're going to be there to join in with us. We're very excited about all the speakers that we're going to have there. And as a matter of fact, one of them is listening in on the call today. I see Mr. Brandon Clay being one of those, so we're very excited about Brandon being announced also as a speaker for the event. So make sure you make your plans to be with us. Again, you can go to onelifeamerica.com/academy, get all the information you need, and register there as well. So we'll move now to our leaderboard weekly reports that we give you. We start with One Life as a whole. We had an excellent week for the week of 7-3 through 7-7. As you know, we usually about a week and a half before we are able to get our reporting out. So right now we're looking at 7-3 through 7-7. Had an excellent week. Even though we had many of you out of town on some different trips and things of that nature, we still came in with $863,284 worth of submitted annualized premium. I think considering the circumstances, that is an excellent week. So we're excited about that. And for the team reports, we've got some new names on the list, some names shuffling around a little bit here. We'll start with number 5 on our team report and go with a model of consistency of late. The folks out of Meridian, they're right at about 4 or 5 every week. Team Meridian came in with $52,907 worth of submitted annualized premium. At number 4, Adam Schwartz's group came in with $53,177 submitted AP. At number 3, a new name over the last few months, but they've consistently been on our top 5 list. That's How Insurance Services. They came in with $62,719 for that week. And at number 2, Life Management Group, a consistent number 2 out of Opelika, Alabama. They're going to start continuing to creep forward. At least that's what I believe. They're doing some excellent work over there in Alabama with Life Management Group. At $73,474 worth of submitted AP, they come in at number 2. And number 1, the team of the week for One Life America, and that would be Innovative Insurance Brokers. Congratulations to all you guys with $153,530 worth of submitted annualized production. Again, for the week of 7-3 through 7-9. We've got a top 10 list. I think Brandon's going to be very excited about this. I think he's got an agent on this list, and maybe even the agent of the week. I'm sure he'll share just a second or two about that if I'm correct on what I'm seeing here. So for our top 10 list for agents, We've got coming in at number 10, a new name to the list, at least in a little while, from my understanding. Tariq Lasheen came in with $7,083 worth of submitted AP. And, hey, looky there. We've got Miss Stacy Bedgood, $7,307 worth of submitted annualized production. She is another one of Brandon Lewis's agents. So excited about seeing that name on the list there for Stacy. At number 8, Antoine Vaughn came in with $7,330. Number 7, Joshua Buchanan came in with $7,384. At number 6, to finish out the bottom half of the top 10 list, Christopher Patterson wrote $7,571 worth of business. At number 5, a manager that we have out of the Jackson, Mississippi area, Mr. Scott Watkins, came in with $7,980 for an excellent week. At number 4, Dan Curtis, $9,414. At number 3, Jerry Tobagus with $9,656. At number 2, stretching past $10,000 at $10,442, Mr. Zachary Boyd. And number 1, Susan Fisher, I think affectionately known as Susie here with One Life America, and she came in with $11,570, being the agent of the week here for One Life America. So we've hit on our few things that we need to touch on here as far as One Life is concerned. I'm very excited about the guests we have this morning. I know in talking with Scotty and with Dave and a few people around the office, as soon as we got the blog in and folks really started taking to it, we said, man, it's a no-brainer. We've got to get Brandon on the call as soon as possible, and certainly we are very excited to have him on the call this morning. Some of you may have heard Brandon's story, heard him share before and some of the things that he's been through. He's been very upfront and honest about some of the challenges he's faced in his life. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina, got a bachelor's degree in business management from St. Andrews Presbyterian College in Laurinburg, North Carolina, where he played baseball for 4 years. He's been with One Life for about 2 years now, and he has about 25 agents. We're very excited to welcome onto the call to share this morning. He's going to share a little bit with us about God's plan for him and how he overcame many roadblocks, learned how to be a successful businessman, leader, and true follower of Christ, and how he incorporates all that together. Very excited to welcome to the call, I believe if he's there with us, Mr. Brandon Lewis. Brandon, are you there?
I'm here, brother.
Thank you so much for being on the call, my man. The floor is yours.
Okay, man. Well, listen, I appreciate the opportunity to just take a few minutes to talk to everybody in the One Life family, man. And I really appreciate that introduction to Jeff. Your present is on the way. So, this morning I really wanted to, when Jeff called me and asked me to do this, I'm fresh off of, writing that blog about the business and ministry and stuff like that. And I start thinking about, because I usually use stories or my personal story to try to drive my point home, because I've had a lot of experience in a lot of the topics that I talk about. So one of the things that I've had a lot of experience is fear and faith, and that's what I want to talk about today, because fear is going to be fear is the second most powerful human emotion to outgoing of love. Like loving someone is the number one most powerful human emotion, but outside of that the next on the list is fear. And fear is something that can really, really paralyze you, or it can drive you. And I think that it comes down to a personal decision, your personal or where your mindset is or whatever determines how you deal with fear. And then faith, obviously, is fear turned inside out. So I want to talk today of just about a few things and just talk about kind of how I use that in my life to drive me into action. And I feel like if anybody can kind of figure this out, and it doesn't have to be exactly how I figured it out, but if you can just figure out how to harness that emotion, then it's going to drive you into a success or a level of success that you never would have reached otherwise, because fear is very paralyzing if you let it. And so first I want to define fear. So it's very eloquently defined by Les Brown, where fear is false evidence appearing real. Okay, I'm sure everybody's probably heard that analogy or acronym before, but do you believe it? You know what I mean? Do you really believe what you're scared of isn't real? You know what I mean? That's one of the first things that I think that we have to kind of figure out, is that whatever you're scared of, more than likely never happen. Okay, that's what, if you can realize that and understand that, then when you start kind of getting scared of stuff, you can kind of look at the evidence of history based on what you've been scared of before and say, well, how much of that stuff actually happened? You know what I mean? And if you look back, the percentage is probably very low on the things that actually came to fruition. So if that's true, then why are we remaining scared of something that is probably not even going to happen? So that's something that I realized early on. And when I say early on, most everybody knows my story. And like Jeff said, I'm very transparent about my life and where I was at a certain time in my life. And then, because I think that it's a great example of God's glory in my life, of the power that he has over our lives and what he can do for us if you just put him in the center. And I'm actually I went to Elevation Church yesterday and listened to Stephen Furtick preach. And if you guys know who he is, he preached a sermon yesterday on It Had to Happen. That was the name of the sermon. So I'm actually going to take some verses and stuff that he used yesterday to kind of drive my point home. Because as I was sitting there listening, I was like, this would be great stuff to talk about on the call today. But I want to use my personal story real quick. Just in the beginning, man, when I was just getting clean and I started to leap into these new areas of life, uncharted territory, if you will, fear of the unknown is very, very strong, okay? We get scared, and I'm going to kind of apply this to new agents also because that's where my mind always is, because that's what I'm always doing is working with new agents, getting them started. And, man, it is amazing to me how many things that people are scared of that are not even going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, what if I do this or what if I do that? Or on the other side of that, they get scared of things that I know are going to happen. Okay, so whenever they say, well, what if I go into a house and mess it up, or what if I do this, what if I do that? I said, all right, hold on. Let me tell you this real quick. So if you're scared of messing up an appointment, if you're scared of saying the wrong thing in an appointment, if you're scared of talking yourself out of a sale, if you're scared of getting hung up on or getting cussed out or getting a door slammed in your face, look, don't be scared of all that stuff because I can guarantee you that all that stuff's going to happen. Okay? So don't worry if it's going to happen. No, it is going to. Okay? So then after that I say, all right, so what are you doing to prepare yourself to handle that when it does happen? Okay? So I think that is one of the most important things is in the beginning, mindset development is something that I was focused on solely focused on for a while because, I was coming out of addiction and things like that, man. My mind was jacked up. So I really had to work on, mindset development and getting my mind in a place where I could handle adversity and handle things that are going to happen in my life. All right, including getting hung up on and all the rejection that we encounter as an agent or an agency owner and things like that, man, is hard to deal with. It really is hard to deal with. And I don't care how much you work on yourself. I don't care how strong you are. There is going to be a time when that stuff gets to you. I have quit this business 3 times in the same day, but I hired myself back every time, so I'm still working. So I want to use that's my own personal experience because the thing is that I knew that fear, when I heard that it was the second most powerful emotion, I knew that if I could figure out how to harness that and let that fear drive me into action, then I would be taking one of the most powerful human emotions that we experience, and I'd be letting that drive me. It's just kind of like the same concept of, when I knew that the same power that raised a man from the dead, okay, God's power, raised a man from the dead more than once in the Bible, and I knew that if I could take that power that was available to me also to use in my business, that would take things to a height that I never would be able to reach alone, okay, or on my own power. And so it's the same concept. So we're just taking these things that are available to us, and the good news is that you don't have to earn this stuff, man. I mean, you don't have to earn the ability to harness the emotion of fear. You don't have to earn the right to use God's power. It is available to you right now for you to use and use that stuff in your business. And I'm telling you right now that I have used that stuff in my business, and it has served me very well. I mean, we're not number one or anything, but we're on the way. We're headed that way. And, a lot of times it's not the speed at which things happen. It's about what you become on the way. So understand that God's always at work in your life, and God doesn't make mistakes, and he knows exactly what you need and when you need it. And I can tell you right now, comfort and growth do not coexist. okay? They don't. It's not possible. You can't be comfortable and growing, okay? So if you're feeling good, you're feeling comfortable, I can tell you right now that you're not doing everything you need to do. So you better get used. I think a man told me one time, he said, listen, Brandon, if you want to be successful in this business, you better get comfortable being uncomfortable. And so that is always, when I get to a comfortable place in my life, I always try to stretch out to a new thing, try something different, work a little bit harder, because I'm trying to keep myself at a certain level of discomfort, because I want to keep myself in a constant state of growth. All right, and I think that's very important, okay? So if you're doing that, then the fear is not going to paralyze you. It'll drive you. So what I mean by letting fear drive you, or what I did, was if I was scared of being broke, I went out and ran a lot more appointments, okay? If I was scared of failing, then I would make sure that I was doing the things that was going to ensure me not failing permanently, okay? And I was going to, and I mean, just everything that I would get scared of, okay, fear of not measuring up, I would get out there and work harder. Like, I would make sure that when other people were sleeping, or other people were partying, or other people were doing things that were not helping them grow, that I was doing stuff to help me grow. All right, so I remember distinctly in 2015 when the clock struck 12 on New Year's night, and everybody was out partying and getting drunk and, kissing somebody beside them and all that stuff. I was sitting in my office, and I was writing out my goals for that year. And listen, I'm not saying that I'm special or anything, but I was intentional about the things that I was doing. So, and I can tell you right now that every single goal that hit that paper that night, it came to fruition in 2015. I accomplished every goal on that paper. All right, and that doesn't mean that I'm like more special than anybody else. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm just telling you that with intentional focus, you're going to accomplish great things in your life and your business, because the bottom line is this: it's great to be a good insurance agent, make a lot of money and stuff like that, but who are you influencing? You know what I mean? That's really what it's about, because God does want us to. I believe that He truly does want us to live in abundance, and in abundance, one of the things that is in abundance is money. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's more about relationships. Who are you influencing? How are you using that influence to grow His kingdom is really what matters. So if you can take fear and turn it into becoming all that stuff, as you can probably imagine, that's going to be very profitable for you and anybody that you can teach to do the same thing. Because agents come in, every agent that comes in is going to be terrified of the unknown. They get so scared of somebody slam a door in their face or whatever, and if you find one that's not scared of that, then you better hug their neck and do whatever they ask you to do, all right, because they're very hard to find, and it's just human nature. So we have to kind of go against, in order to be successful in life, in order to have that fulfilled relationship with God, we have to go against the natural inclination of human beings. Okay, we naturally want to be comfortable. We naturally, want to, take the easy road. We naturally want to, not do the right thing. Okay, and so those are things that you have to work against. All right, you have to, go against those natural feelings and do the opposite of that in order to really, really be ultra successful and have that really fulfilled relationship with God and stuff like that. And I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get in this game. I didn't dedicate my life to God just to do it halfway. And so I'm in it for the long haul, and I'm in it to get everything I can possibly get out of it. God has a humongous blessing for us out there, but it's just a matter of who gets ready to receive it. So understand that, if you can harness fear, that will get you more ready to receive God's blessing. Because when somebody told me one time, he said, Brandon, look, God has a humongous blessing out there for you, but He doesn't have to, get that ready, okay? He doesn't have to get the blessing ready. He's God. He spoke the world into existence. And so He doesn't have to, work up in heaven. He's not out there, working right now on getting your blessing ready, because He's God. It's already ready for you. He said what He's working on is getting you ready for the blessing. All right, so if you ask me what I'm doing, I'm going to tell you I'm getting ready. And they'll say, getting ready for what? Well, the blessing. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to get ready for it, because another quote that I love is, when the opportunity comes, it is then too late to prepare. All right, so you can't wait till it's already here and then say, I'm going to get ready now. No, sir, I'm getting ready right now for what God has in store for me 10 years from now. And I'm going to tell you right now, it may take me 10 years to become the person that God can bless me with that blessing with. So I am aware of that, and I'm not going to let that blessing go by because I wasn't ready, because that's a real stupid reason to not receive it. So, guys, I'm just telling you that if you can harness fear, if you can harness that emotion and turn it into action, and let God work in your life through that, then you are going to be very successful. And it doesn't have to be as an agent or as an agency owner or whatever. Look, you can be successful wherever you're at, because I can tell you right now, if you're a believer in God and you believe He's working in your life, then wherever you're at is where you're supposed to be. So it doesn't matter where you're at. Understand that you need to take hold of where you're at and take advantage of where you're at and let God work in your life. So in the book of Acts, in chapter 27, this is where Stephen Furtick taught yesterday. I had it marked and I lost it. Give me 1 second. But he taught out this yesterday, and I just want to go over this real quick. It's a real quick story. It's about Paul. He's trying to sail to Rome, which is like the biggest. At that point in time, Rome was the strongest nation in the world and all that stuff. So that's where he was sailing to. He was going to go tell them about Jesus, and he gets arrested. Okay, on the way, or before he's leaving to go there, he gets put on a ship with a bunch of prisoners, 276 prisoners. Okay, now before they left, Paul, a man of God, he's not complaining and whining about being arrested and all that stuff. He understands God's power is at work in his life, and he also understands that adversity is required for growth. So Paul's going to, and listen, I wish I would have been as good as Paul, but if I'd have been out there arrested for preaching God's word, I'd have been, maybe having a little, prayer meeting with God, if you will. But Paul's way, Paul, this is the reason that he wrote most of the New Testament is because he is who he is. So I want us to take an example from him. 5 more minutes and we're done here. So Paul talks, what happens is they get into a raging storm, and it rages on for days and days and days, and they are on there, they're like wondering what's going on. They're like, oh my gosh, the ship's going down and all that stuff. So Paul goes to them and says that, I'm looking for it right now. He tells them basically, he's like, look, I told you that, right here it is. He says, you men should have followed my advice not to sail from Crete and sustain this damage and loss. So he's saying, look, dude, I told you not to sail this way. Because he did. He told him, look, don't sail that way. That's not a good way to do it. And do it this way. And because Paul had got a word from God. Okay, so I guess what we can take from that is, listen, if you have a mentor that is driven by God's divine information, if you will, then look, just stop, listen to that person. Listen to your leader. I think that's very important. All right, because what happened was the night before, an angel had came to Paul and said, he said, for this night an angel of God I belong to stood by and served me. And he said, don't be afraid, Paul. You must stand before Caesar. And look, God has graciously given you all the things, given you all those who you are sailing with. So the angel already came to Paul and said, look, dude, you're going to make it to Rome. All right, but I got another little something that's going to happen. Paul didn't know what this was, but he knew that all these sailors were entrusted to him, okay? So he was not driven, he was not scared. Like when the rage was going on, the storm was raging on, Paul wasn't scared. He didn't let fear paralyze him. All right, so then what happens is that Paul went and told the people, he said, look, you're going to make it, but the ship ain't going to make it, okay? So what happens is they run aground on an island called Malta, and Paul every Bible uses different words, but at the end of the day, Paul calls these people barbarians, okay? And they came in, which were the islanders, the people that lived on the island. They met them on the shore, and they built them a fire, okay? Well, Paul, being the good man he is, all right, he went over there and and was picking up brushwood to help build the fire, right? And then if you know the story, you know what happened. Paul reaches down in there, and a snake that was coming out of there, a viper as it's described, which if you know what a viper is, it's a poisonous snake, and it latched onto his hand. All right, so listen, man, Paul gets arrested for preaching God's gospel. He's on a ship with a bunch of prisoners that didn't listen to him, and he already knows that they should have listened to him, all right? Now they ran aground on this deserted island, or on this island with barbarians, and then he reaches down the thing and he gets bit by the snake. Like, I don't know about you, but I'd have been like, man, what is the deal, God? You know what I mean? What's going on? But Paul doesn't do that. He understands that this is just a setup for him to show God's grace. So at first when he gets bit by the viper, the people are saying, oh, man, he must be a murderer or somebody that deserves all that stuff. But then right after that, it says Paul shook the snake off his hand, and, I imagine Paul, dusting his shoulders off, you know what I'm saying, and saying, look, guys, this snake does not have that much power over me. So they went from thinking Paul was a murderer to then thinking that he was a god. So guess what that did? That allowed Paul to go in, and the leader of the island, his dad was sick. Paul goes in there and heals him and all that stuff. And the bottom line is that had Paul let fear paralyze him, he would have never been set up to accomplish all that stuff for God. And he realized that, hey, the island of Malta was just a stop on the way. To Rome, man. He was going there anyways, and he also knew when he got bit by the snake, God wasn't going to let him die there because God wasn't done with him yet. So I think of my life as an example of that as well. Look, I knew God didn't allow me to die in addiction, which I almost did die twice. I was on life support for 7 days, 2 different times. And I know that, I just know that God saved my life so that, maybe it was just to do this conference call today. All right, so that somebody could hear that you do not let fear rule your life. All right, and so now at the end of the call, this is it. This is what you got to do, man. You got to take that fear, you got to harness it, you got to use it for your benefit, and turn it into faith. Okay, because listen, whatever it is that you're scared of, you got to have faith. All right, in God, in your leader that's leading you, in your ability. You got to have faith in all these things that God has given you everything you need to get where you need to go, to become who you need to become, and to accomplish the goals and the dreams that God has planted inside of you. Okay, so you got to have faith, okay? Because listen, fear and faith both require belief in things you cannot see. Fear and faith both require belief in things you cannot see. So if that's true, I'm going to choose the one that's going to benefit me the most, which is going to be faith. And I'm going to believe that no matter what's going on in my life, I can see the other side of it, and I know that God has a hand on it, and I know that I'm going to become something more than I ever would have become without that adversity in my life. So the bottom line is it had to happen, okay? Because you've got to really work on your inside. I mean, you got to work on the inside. You got to work on the mindset. It's not how much money you make. It's not where you get to on the leaderboard. It's what are you becoming. That's what God cares about, okay? And so if you care about that and God cares about that, then I can tell you that when you're focused on becoming something that God wants you to become, that you are in God's will. That's a question people always ask. Oh, what's God's will? Well, He wants you to become something for Him, for His kingdom. That is the sole purpose of us as human beings on this planet, is to grow God's kingdom. So stay focused on that stuff, and I promise you that success will come as a result of that focus and a good mindset. And the last thing I'll say is, listen, the same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. So it's not about your circumstances. It's about what you're made of. That's all I got, Jeff. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk on the call this morning, man. I hope that was good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the call, Brandon. And certainly any of you folks that would be interested in joining the call with us, maybe hosting, being a featured guest on the call. We would love to have you. So make sure that you reach out to us. I have a One Life email. It's jbowles, that's JBOLES, at onelifeamerica.com. So we'd love to hear from you. If you have any input, if you'd like to share, those things would certainly be welcomed. All right, that's going to wrap us up for this week. Brandon, again, thank you so much for being on the call. He said he was going to shuck the corn, and I think he certainly did. Gave us plenty of things to chew on for the week ahead. Thank you again all for being with us. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week at 9 o'clock. Until then, we hope you have a wonderful week. God bless.